Tuning out of starlight, the innocent lifetime flickers and flashes under a
Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Should You Play News with me, Striker HD. In today's episode, we shall be having a debate about Microsoft's decision to release a Kinect-less Xbox One. Now, if you're unfamiliar with this series, I've only done one video before, so I'm sure you are. Basically, I'll go through the introduction, which will give an overview of the actual news story. I'll give a couple of quotes, just to say what's actually happened if you're not already aware. If you are aware, just skip ahead a few seconds, or I'll put an annotation to allow you to do so. And then I go into the main section of the episode, which is basically me having a debate with good and bad points. So I'll typically give 1 point, and then have a counter argument for that, one way or the other. And then finally I end with a conclusion, and give my own view on what I actually think about the decision or the news story. And yeah, hopefully help you decide, or at least give you another point of view on the topic. So without further ado, we should get into it. So basically, if you haven't already heard, Microsoft, as of this week, have decided to sell a Kinect-less version of the Xbox One. So of course it was controversial to begin with that Microsoft was solely selling the Xbox One with a Kinect. And obviously that had a price hike for the console. So it retailed at £425 in the UK and $499 in the US. And of course that was quite significantly higher than the PlayStation 4 in both of those territories, as well as Europe, Japan and other places. So of course they got criticised from that, and I'm sure you remember all the storm of criticism that came their way for various decisions that they've now turned around on. And this is one more that they've decided to turn their heads on and resolve. So basically, they've decided to sell one without a Kinect, and it's resulted in a $100 price drop in the US. So it'll now be sold from $399. This is from June the 9th, so I feel kind of sorry for people buying one before then who don't actually want the Kinect, because then they're going to feel kind of upset. And then a £76 price drop in the UK for over retail anyway, from $425 to $349. However, the UK did have a price drop from the $425 retail to around £400 official price drop a couple months ago. I believe it was in January. However, you can pick one up in the UK for about $370 with a copy of Titanfall and possibly another game, if those bundles are still going. I know they were a few weeks ago. So obviously those prices may stay the same or drop less in the UK because of that. However, this is the first official price drop for the US version, and for many that will be a welcome addition, because of course that brings it in line with the $400 PlayStation 4. So that's a pretty significant bonus for a lot of people who were maybe debating which one to get. Maybe they had they wanted to play Forza on the Xbox One, but also wanted to play Infamous on the PlayStation 4 and couldn't decide, but ended up getting a PS4, or were leaning that way because of the price. So now that's evened out a bit. And of course the PlayStation 4 doesn't come with the camera as a standard. You have to buy that separately. However, it does have most of the functionality that a Kinect does. So the quotes from Microsoft, they basically said that Kinect remains an important part of their vision, which is something that will come into the points I debate later on, because obviously with the 360 it wasn't something you had to buy, and we all know how that turned out. And they also said that it is an absolutely integral part of the experience, which is actually what they originally said back when they announced the Xbox One. They said it is an integral part of the experience, and it's an absolutely integral part. They really hit hard with that after they got the criticism, and said that they couldn't just flick a switch. And that is a quote. I believe it was it Major Nelson that said that? It was someone that said that. Anyway, one of the big guys at Microsoft. And they basically said, well, they couldn't just flick a switch and disable Kinect effectively. Hence why originally they said you had to have it plugged in at all times. That changed, again, something they went back on, like many other things they've done. For better and worse, of course. And that's pretty much what they've done. They've effectively flicked a switch, and now you don't need the Kinect at all. So, was that a lie? Or have they actually come up with a solution for it? I can't say, but Well, it was probably a lie, let's be honest. So that's basically the overview. Not a complicated story at all. Again, most of you have probably heard of it. So, we'll get on to the good and bad points of it. So, obviously, the major good point for the majority of people, which cannot be denied, is the reduce in price. So, a lot of people can't afford a $500 or a £400 games console. It's not a realistic prospect. Of course, the 360 when it came out was around that price. And then it, within a couple years, dropped to, I believe it was £200 to £300, depending on the model. And that's a lot more reasonable. The typical... I've grown up in kind of just a working class family in Britain, and the typical kind of money people would spend on their child at Christmas at the age of under 18 would be probably around £200 odd on average. Obviously, people with loads of kids are going to spend less because it costs more money, and then people with an only one child will spend a bit more. That's just how life typically works. So, even for people who are quite well off like them, £400 and $500 is a pretty far stretch. And of course, reducing that by a significant amount will really help a lot of younger children and younger teenagers actually be able to afford it. Because I'm sure, I remember I wanted the 360 at launch and there wasn't a chance of being able to afford it. Luckily enough, I was able to get the consoles at launch this time, but that's because I have a job. And obviously I'm a lot older. But many of these children will have wanted one for Christmas. Parents would have turned it down because of the price. And supposedly we're in a recession, so that's why everyone has a bloody iPhone. So there we go. So with Christmas coming up, of course this is happening in June. So obviously people have their birthdays. But with Christmas coming up, a lot more kids will be looking forward to being able to get an Xbox One if that's the console they wanted. And of course the PlayStation 4 is still around that price. So now there's a lot more incentive to actually choose between the two, because obviously a lot of people would have gone for the PlayStation 4 purely because of the price, and that was the one thing they could afford. And obviously besides the price difference, there wasn't that many, especially at the moment, that many differences in terms of the actual hardware. So of course that is a massive bonus for people, and as I said, a lot of people were actually waiting for a Kinect-less version of the Xbox One because they maybe picked up a 360 Kinect, or maybe and realised it was pretty much worthless, or they just don't like motion controls at all. They just like to sit in their couch, sit in their chair, play games with a gamepad, and that's about it. Maybe they like the voice commands and that, but didn't really want to pay what is effectively now $100 more for a Kinect version, because they didn't see it was worth it. So they probably went for the PlayStation 4 or just held on because it was effectively inevitable that Microsoft were going to make this decision. I think many people are kind of surprised it was this early though, because of course it's only been out for 6 months, and people felt pretty cheesed off. All those people who were promised by whoever said that quote, again I believe it was Major Nelson, that there wouldn't be a Kinect-less version. Because they couldn't do it. It wasn't possible. Again, like with the whole SimCity thing and not being able to have an offline mode. Is it lies? Is it just advances in technology and software? I can't say for sure. But of course, they're going to feel pretty cheesed off. They spent the £425, the $500. And now suddenly they can get $100 or £70 off of that. For something they barely use. Me personally, I barely use my Kinect. Even for the voice commands, it's just quicker and easier to use a controller. And I don't know whether it's because I got quite a monotone voice or just because I'm British, but it barely recognises my voice accurately most of the time. So there we go. That, again, kind of one side of the argument for that bit. And obviously, my main concern is there's going to be a lot less Kinect support. I mean, they've now been, as I said, quoted saying Kinect remains an important part of our vision. However, again, they're just words. They've used plenty of words since the Xbox One was announced. And if we look back at the 360 version, that really didn't get much support. They pushed it and pushed it, but no good games. Obviously, Rise looked like it was going to be a Kinect exclusive game, and that looked incredible from the CGI trailer. And of course, that never turned out to be anything besides a kind of bland Xbox One exclusive. graphical showcase, many would say. So I kind of see it falling into that category again, and it just... Why would a developer and a publisher want to make a Kinect exclusive game if the adoption rate is significantly less? Of course, all the people who bought a Kinect before this announcement and before the price and the bundle changes will have a Kinect. However, many of those people also sold them, and then other people who maybe had a broken one bought it on eBay, or you could even trade them into certain game stores and get not a lot of money, but a bit of money for them. So the adoption rate is gonna fall drastically. I personally, I don't know anyone who would buy a Kinect version for £76 more than a non-Kinect version. Admittedly, the old Kinect used to cost £130 when it came out, and me being a tool, I actually bought it for that. But it's still a significant amount of money. And unless you are going to definitely use it for more than just the voice command, then ultimately it's not worth it. So that's definitely something I am personally very, very concerned about, because when the Xbox One was announced and they said it's coming with a Kinect, it has to have a Kinect, I could have done a debate on that, because many people saw it as a criticism, as an opportunity to criticize even, because obviously of the price, because they personally wouldn't use the Kinect, which is fair enough. However, I saw it as, damn, this Kinect is better, it's got more processing power, it's got more technology in it, it's just better in general, and games and publishers can make a game for the Kinect and know that everyone who owns an Xbox One will also have a Kinect. So they could quite easily kind of get figures in their head of how many people would buy it. Of course, Kinect only games aren't popular in general anyway, but that was, again, based on them not being very good. And I was hoping for better AAA games, especially on the Kinect, this time around. And that hasn't happened, of course. We've had Kinect Sports Rivals, which you can call AAA if you want, but it's effectively Wii Sports and the old Sports Rival. And it's a pretty good game, but it's the same type of thing. I was hoping and doubting at the same time that we might actually see some proper AAA games with integration of the Kinect, whether it was just really fancy voice commands, just basic gestures with your hands, your head, even your fingers, because of course it can recognize that. I don't know, but I was looking forward to it, and this has effectively ruined those hopes and dreams. So again, that is my personal main worry for this. Moving on, as I change over my flick pad, they have recently, as of today, depends when I actually put up this video, but hopefully as of today, they have announced that they are looking into the possibility that the Kinect-less version will result in more processor power, or more spare processing power, which could in turn result in better graphical performance with the Xbox One. Of course, another big criticism of the Xbox One is that it is factually less powerful than the PlayStation 4. The hardware-wise, it is less powerful. They kind of messed up on the RAM. They included less actual RAM and then included some VRAM, a very, very small amount. And many developers have come out and said that you just can't get 1080p textures onto that amount of RAM, even though it's a faster type of RAM. And of course, that's another debate for another day, but it was a big criticism, and Microsoft have come out and said that they are actually talking to publishers and trying to discuss whether it's possible to use the processing power that the Kinect originally took up to improve graphical performance in games. Maybe that'll be increasing the frame rate, or maybe that'll just be getting more games to run at 1080p, which of course the PlayStation 4 currently does. However, Watch Dogs is going to run at 1080p on neither of them. It'll be 900 on the PlayStation 4 and 700 and something on the Xbox One, which is pretty disappointing. But luckily enough, I have a gaming PC, and I highly recommend most of you try and pick one up. Yeah. But again, I'm getting sidetracked. It's going to happen. So basically, the Kinect originally took up 10% of the horsepower of the Xbox One. And that's quite a significant amount when you're trying to bridge the gap between getting 30 FPS at 1080p and 30 FPS at a lower resolution. Because, of course, a lot of games, even like Titanfall, come out at 900p on the Xbox One. And maybe if they had that extra 10% power, it could have come out at 1080p. I can't say for sure, but that would be the hope, of course. Because it is only 180 more pixels. However, most people will see this as brilliant. They'll be like, oh yeah, look, awesome. We're going to get 1080p gaming on the Xbox One. We're going to get better looking games, higher frame rates, more stable frame rates. But I immediately thought, what about the people like me with a Kinect? Am I going to have to physically turn off my Kinect before playing these games for them to run at that resolution? Or will they just not work at all if I have the Kinect turned on or plugged in? Will the console automatically just turn off the Kinect for these games? That would be okay. That's a reasonable substitute. However, that means there's definitely not going to be any voice commands or gesture commands in those games added in. So again, less Kinect support. My main criticism for this decision. So that's a question that I have that hasn't been answered, and whether you would actually just have to unplug your Kinect for certain games, or have it run at a lower resolution if you didn't, or a lower frame rate if you didn't. That's something for them to actually clarify, if it is possible at all. So yeah, that's quite a significant point, really. So that's pretty much it for my main points. I mean, again, it's not a complicated news story, and there is only 3 or 4 arguments for and against. But to conclude, because I wanted to keep this quite a short video anyway, because attention spans and all, and I know you don't want to just sit here and watch whatever rubbish gameplay I got in the background and listen to my voice. Believe me, I wouldn't either. But if you have got this far, thank you very much, and please leave a like if you enjoyed. But to conclude, I am personally worried that it will just turn into another peripheral that is worthless, another quote-unquote gimmick, and effectively turn into the Xbox 360 Kinect, because that was a major disappointment for me. It was a brand new thing besides like the iToy in the past. I was quite excited for it, hence why I picked it up. Had a bit of fun for a few weeks playing all the sports games and things like that. It's always nice fun, especially if you've got people around, family, friends. Good party games, but for the price, not at all. Now, I'm just worried it will turn into that. There will be no AAA games. The only games that really incorporated it kind of effectively was Mass Effect and a few others that use voice commands. But even then, it was effectively just as quick to use your gamepad. And obviously, if you had other people in the house, you'd be speaking and it'd be loud, and it's just inconvenient basically. And of course, if you have background noise, it might not pick up your voice, and it could be like a life or death situation in the game, a difference between winning and losing. So it didn't really work all that well. And again, when the Xbox One was announced, I was really hoping for these AAA games to finally come out, because they knew they would have such a big user base for the Kinect and such a big adoption rate. Now that has been thrown out the metaphorical window, quite literally, literally. Yeah. So it disappoints me. It really, I knew it was coming. I hoped it wasn't, for the most part, because obviously, personally, for me, it doesn't benefit me. I know it does benefit many, many, many people, and I respect that. But yeah, I am, to conclude, I'm worried it's just going to turn into a lot of promises and little results, which is the way I see the 360 Kinect. And, yeah, I'm pretty sad.
I wonder.
I mean, I don't even own a game that uses Kinect. Oh, besides Forza, I mean, if you turn your head left and right, you look left and right in the car. Well, thank you for joining me, guys. If you got this far, I really, really appreciate it, and I love you very much. Please leave a like if you enjoyed. Give me a comment with some criticism if you did not. And hopefully, I see you next time for the next debate. Thank you. Goodbye.